right, everybody. This is MJ Martinez with the Claims Adjusted podcast under InsurTechs.io. So this is my first podcast with InsurTechs.io, and I have a special guest today, Brendan Corr. How are you doing, man?
What's up, MJ, man? It's so great to be here, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited and I'm honored to be guest number one for under the umbrella of InsurTechs.io, man. So thanks.
Yeah, it's an amazing partnership. It's an amazing experience, and what's even more amazing is what you're going to talk about today. So, I kind of want to give the audience a little bit about you, and then I won't ruin the story for you, but what your project is at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. So a little bit about me. Unlike you, I am fairly new to the insurance industry. I've only been in it about just under about 4 years, and I came into the insurance industry from the golf industry. I ran corporate golf tournaments for a number of years, but made a switch kind of during COVID as a part of my story, which is how we get to where we are today. I had to get sober, ended up down in California, did a little stint in rehab, which, most people, you're not really on a winning streak when you're in rehab per se, but it certainly helped catapult me into kind of, a different part of my life, which then led me to the insurance sector. I was lucky enough to connect with Regan Brandt. She's the CEO of Loss Run Pro. I was there for about 3.5 years. We started with like 50-ish pilot accounts. When I left, we had almost 6,000 active users. So really got in at a great time, cool product, loved my time there. But what it also did is it gave me my intro into insurance. And people are like, man, what do you think of the insurance space? And I'm like, I kind of wish I had gotten into it like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, I feel like I kind of missed the boat a little bit, but just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity at Lost Run Pro. Loved it, helped grow it, build it. And it's kind of what has led me into kind of this new project. But happy to be a part of the industry, happy to be hopefully, opening some doors here soon.
Well, we're happy to have you in the industry.
Yeah, man.
I'm a veteran now. I just took my last course of CE. Now I'm grandfathered in. I never thought that I don't have to do CE anymore. That's great.
I
But
love it,
uh,
man. Yeah, 20 years.
20 years, man, and it's been a ride. I've learned a lot. I've cried a lot. I've stressed out a lot. But
Right.
it is a very unique job, and it's a very time-consuming job as well. But you get to help people. At the end of the day, you get to help people, and that's what it's all about. And so, just
Right.
like yourself, you said you went through rehab. That's stuff we never used to talk about. That's
Right.
stuff that we never used to say out loud. And
Yeah.
that's kind of why I brought you on the show, because that's what we want to talk about. Mental health has always been a no-no to talk about as a claims adjuster. I'll give you some more examples in a little bit, but we didn't have that support. We didn't have resources. So tell me, like, what are you doing now?
Yeah, man, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's not something I think anybody. It's a weird balance, right? Because there's so much stigma attached to it because nobody wants to not feel great, and that's the number one hurdle is, shoot, I don't feel great, I'm frustrated, maybe I don't feel good, but then also, of course, like I don't want to admit that to somebody else, and I certainly don't want to admit that to any of my colleagues, my peers, or certainly not my managers because I don't want them thinking I'm not capable of doing my job. So there's certainly a big stigma around mental health or just having a bad day. And in reality is that like, dude, we all have bad days, man. We all struggle. We've all been touched by someone in our life who has struggled with anxiety, depression, a death in the family, addiction. We go on and on. And so what I've been lucky enough to be a part of for this last kind of year is it's called Project 55, and it's what I'll call a passion project. But Justin Goodman and we started that. He brought this idea to me back in, I think it was February or early March of this 2024. And he had this idea of how do we create a platform that encompasses kind of breaking the barriers of conversations and mental health awareness and education. And I was like, dude, I'm in. I love it. I like to tell, I like to be open about my own story because I hope that it also helps others to learn, to understand, or just even simply ask questions. And if this can do that on a broader scale, that's what I'm really kind of grateful for. And so we launched Project 55, or soft launch of Project 55 in September of this year. And we have about 150 members currently in the platform. But that first initial group is they're able to kind of now come in, and they've been helping us over the last few months to really get it ready for launching it to the public. And the whole premise of Project 55 is to educate, equip, and empower individuals who are either struggling with mental health or who have struggled with mental health and don't have the resources or tools to get the help they need. And so our program, or our platform, is designed to give people the tools and the education, also a community of where, hey, I need someone to talk to. Okay, we now have a community of 150 people who are like-minded, who can offer a safe space. So, MJ, if you're struggling, you can say, hey, you can type a question into kind of a community forum, and a lot of other people would be able to kind of offer their advice. So that's the premise of where we are today. And, the goal is that we want to reach as many individuals, agencies, carriers, insurtechs as possible, because outside of, say, the top 50, the top 100, very few groups, agencies, companies have a person designated for, or who understands mental health. And so when someone is struggling, that onus falls to a manager, operations, HR, the owner of an agency. And in many cases, they are also not equipped to know how to respond and or handle. So we want this to be a resource that is widely available, because there just really, from what we found, there really isn't anything within the insurance landscape that does so kind of across the board. So that's a quick intro to the program. So there you go, man.
I love it. I mean, I'm already a member. I think I chatted with you on the
Yep.
earlier,
Yeah.
and I just want to say this. I mean, your mission is amazing. I'm just going to read it really
Thank you.
quick. Project 55 is a community that empowers both individuals and organizations to proactively improve mental health outcomes in the workplace.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get any better than that, especially in the insurance industry, mainly claims. I'm a 20-year veteran of claims. I've been at the very bottom. I've been at the very top. Kind of found my sweet spot now, but I've been in the trenches. I've stressed out. It's very common for claims adjusters to have claim dreams, to have anxiety on Sunday night, almost to the point where you're nauseous.
Right.
You're nauseous. You come to work and you're just scared to say anything. You're scared to feel anything, really.
Sure.
You're there to work. You're there to impress your boss. You're there to impress, anybody else who looks at your work product. And it used to be that talking about your mental health was a sign of weakness, in a general form, but it's not. It's something that
No.
you can deal with, and it's something that should be talked about, and it should be on the forefront of everybody's mind, because we all work very hard, and we need those types of relationships and app like Project 55, to go and talk about our journeys and how we feel, and to have someone to listen to and actually give some advice about it is amazing. Especially for
Yeah.
people that work from home. I mean, after COVID, there's a lot of people that work at home. It's not like you can look right and left and see a coworker and just vent to your coworker. Now you're kind of like myself. I'm here all day in my room, trying
Right.
to get the work done, and I'm in litigation. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing to be in, crazy career to be in. And I think we were talking earlier, and I said, in claims, I think anybody in claims, we used to think that in claims you have to be a little bit crazy, but you don't have to feel crazy. So
Sure.
those are the things that are, dear to my heart. I mean, I'm very passionate about frontline employees, their stress levels, the amount of work that they have, the amount of workload that they have, and especially with a bunch of layoffs and changing of the guard and insurance going into insure tech 1.0, insure tech 2.0. I mean, it's crazy right now in the insurance industry, but it always goes back to the same adjusting job, which
Right.
includes people calling you, wanting to speak to you about their claim. Either they're mad, either they're sad, or you have to educate them, and it wears on you. There's some departments and claims that wear on you more than others. Like my experience as a total loss adjuster way back when, it's like you soak in that bad energy all day long, and when you get out, you're just done. You're done. You want to just stay quiet for about an hour or two and just think about what happened, and then
Right.
get scared to do it the next day. So we didn't have resources like this, and I think it's a great resource to have. I looked through the app. I'm excited to play around with it and see what else it involves. But I'm excited. Like I have
Yeah.
to have you on the show because I saw that and I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's gonna help the claims folks for sure.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that. And, like, I think, kind of a couple points on that is that, like, it used to be seen as you said, kind of a sign of weakness when we talked about mental health. And like, we certainly, again, we want to empower people to feel like they can talk about it in the workplace and they can also raise their hand for help. That also, doesn't excuse people from, not hitting their goals or not actually delivering on their job. But there does have to be a happy medium, right? And if we can start to have those conversations, and it starts with both the employee, managers, owners, right? It is a joint effort because, like, we certainly have to deliver. But also, if a manager understands that, hey, MJ is really stressed out, the workload's overwhelming, is there anything I can do to take off of his plate, at least for the next day, 2 days, that gives him a reprieve while he is maybe struggling because he has a sick kid at home or whatever it might be, right? Like, knowing that and how that communication takes place between or at the workplace is so empowering, right? It makes you feel better as an employee. It makes you feel heard. It makes you feel seen. Because as you just also finished with, everything we feel at the office, we also take home, or we open the door and we go out to our families and we are present with that mindset. So then we take it home. We're stressed. We don't eat well, or I miss my workout. Well, then I don't sleep well. Well, and then I log in the next morning and I'm grumpy, I'm angry, right? And it's like this repeatable cycle. So it's how do we break that mold, right? And not that all companies and managers aren't great, right? But I think that even if you do have a great manager, so often employees are scared to talk to their higher ups. They don't want to get passed over for a promotion, right? Or they don't want it to seem weak. And so, we're trying to, again, bridge that gap between, the executives, management, and employees and feeling confident in having that conversation, but then also giving people a place to learn and engage with others, like I said, who are like minded. Because how powerful, and I'll even give you an example from a management experience. I could log into Project 55 as Brendan Corr. I could log in as Brendan or an anonymous user, and I could post in the chat forum. I have an employee who is currently drinking on the job. We've talked about it at length. I've given them 2 warnings. It does not seem to be helping. Does anybody else in the community have ways that they've engaged with an employee that has been successful? What types of resource, like, that's the type of engagement. It isn't just individuals, because that's important, but it's also from the top down, right? How do we learn better?
I'm glad
And
you
so, It's
I'm
that combo.
so I'm glad you told me that because, I thought it was a site for just the individual, but you're bringing in an example of a manager asking
Yeah.
resources to deal with their employees. I mean, that's even more powerful, to be honest.
Because so many, if you're my manager and I come to you and you're like, hey man, I'm tapped out, I don't know, like, but don't drink, I'm like, sounds good, dude, and I just go home, I drink, or I come to the office, I go to lunch, I have beers. Well, at a certain point, if you and I have a good relationship, but I'm continuously negating my job, or I'm, doing things that might be impactful to the job, that puts stress on you because you don't want to fire me, but you can't not have me doing my job, or you can't have me drinking. And so often that onus gets put on the manager or the vice president or whoever it is. And they're also not equipped to, they have their own problems or issues potentially. And B, they don't have the resources to understand, to maybe know how to deal with Brendan and he's drinking on the job. So it has to work both ways, because there has to be synergy within these workplaces for when an employee is struggling, because undoubtedly that conversation takes place somewhere.
It's an amazing thing. I mean, the stuff you're talking about is like, I think of that meme that says, we're living in 2035 or some,
Mhm.
but I mean, this is something that is really important. And I hold it dear to my heart because, in everything that you said, it kind of, even though you've only had a few years in insurance, it kind of feels like you know what you're talking about. It feels like you've been in insurance for a while because, the stories about drinking beers at lunch, I mean, that's real life. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people do that, and I didn't do it myself personally, but I've had friends do that, and during lunch because they were so stressed out, or have an episode or some sort because they just held it in the whole time.
Right.
And the managers at that time, like you said, weren't equipped with these tools. And so they either saw weakness, or they saw a problem, or they saw, bad performance. But now that they need to think about what's going on in the ecosystem of this employee, right? What's
Sure.
going on with them at home? Is there something else that's, triggering this? Maybe I can, like you said, how can I help them for a day or two to just kind of clear the mind, and maybe even point them to the resource of Project 55, and have them
Yeah.
take some sort of course or class, or some resource that they have
Yeah.
available to them on that.
Well, and even one step further, is, you guys are front lines, right? You talked about interacting with people and customers. Okay, well, now you're taking all of that energy in. In most cases, it's not great energy, like, it's usually a challenging experience, or kind of conversation. It's a, I don't want to say it's a negative interaction, but like, a lot of times they're stressful interactions, right? And so having an environment where you feel supported by your manager, to where you feel empowered to sometimes say, hey, this is how it is, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, not that you hang up the phone, but like, if your manager gives you the confidence to know that, hey, it's okay. Because a lot of times, let's say you have a conversation today, what you might have another interaction with that client tomorrow. Well, you take whatever you experienced today into tomorrow's call. And if you are hesitant, or you don't feel empowered because you're stressed, you're anxious, or, again, maybe you had a death in the family, any of those conversations that can take place so your manager is aware of the things going on, then you feel better about when you are making those calls or when you're interacting. Those customers also will feel that in most cases, right? Not all the time, but I'm just saying in general.
You know what? I've done that. To be honest, I'll be upfront and honest. Especially in the total loss department. When I first started, you're taking calls from everybody who lost their car, and it's our fault, and
Right.
all those conversations were just horrible. And like you said, I mean, I would have to call them, 1 or 2 days later, and sometimes I wouldn't call them, and that's when it starts to affect your productivity and your performance. And there was just like a mental block from calling this person because I knew what sort of interaction I was going to have and
You knew
how,
it was coming back.
yeah,
Yeah.
how I was going to feel when when I called them again. I was like, who wants that? I didn't want that, so I just wouldn't call. But I've learned I've learned over time. I've put mental health on the forefront, and this is great. I mean, just you talking about everything that's available, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to be more. So like different iterations, which is great. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's gonna come next. But I just recently heard a podcast that y'all put out, and that was really powerful. Talking about employees and how they stress, and maybe their stress is because they care about their job. They
Yeah.
do care about their job, but they're stressed because maybe they get feedback, and maybe the manager can have a different way of giving that feedback, but feedback is going to help them move forward. It's important to both parties, but somehow
Sure.
there needs to be, like you said, a bridge, for that
Mhm.
gap between, the managers and the employees, and the whole idea of feedback.
Yeah.
What defines feedback? When I'm giving you feedback, what do you feel, when I'm giving you this feedback? Because I think it really needs to be talked about, because when I got feedback, I felt like those sad dogs that, just threw up in the living room or something, and they're just sitting
Right.
there,
Right.
and it makes
Well, yeah,
me.
you just sit in the corner and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't want this feedback because it's coming maybe in a way that is not intended, but it's how you're receiving it too.
Exactly. And that can make or break you, because I've had employees in the past, that were my coworkers, and they were getting feedback left and right. And for me, I really didn't at that age. I think I was like 25, 26. At that age, I didn't care. I mean, if they gave me feedback, I was like, okay, whatever. But they took it to heart, and
Yeah.
they would really like take it home with them, like you said. I mean, they
Yeah.
would be at home just thinking, like, man, my manager sucks, or whatever wanted to, whatever their outlet was at the time, they would leave. They would leave the company, a great company.
Mhm.
They would
Mhm.
leave because they didn't want that feedback, because to them, that feedback was negative. And maybe it
Sure.
was given in a negative tone or what have you. I mean, there's been lots of trainings for management, due to the changing workforce, but um, resources have still been scarce,
Sure.
as far
Sure.
as going into like the app and asking questions. I mean, that sounds amazing to me. I would
Yeah.
love to have that when I was managing, 200 people.
Right.
How do I deal
Right.
with this person, because you're dealing with different types of personalities, and you're dealing with different people who have different stressors, different ideas of what stress is too.
Without a doubt. I mean, managing 200 people, dude, that's 200 people who are wildly different at different areas of their life, different people in their life when they come to work, when they leave and go home from work. And this isn't supposed to be a catch-all, right? Like it is, we're just hoping that it sparks conversation within the industry and for individuals, right? Like we spend 40, 50 hours a week with our colleagues, right? Or colleagues, you might work from home, but that's a lot of time for people who maybe have no idea what's going on with us outside of our work. But yet it's where we spend half of our work, our weeks. It's crazy, And then we also, we're not supposed to take any of our personal life to work, but yet we're supposed, in a lot of cases, we take our work life into our personal life, whether intended or not, right? Like I don't know how many claims people open up a laptop at 9 p.m., but it doesn't have to be a laptop. It can just be the stress, right? From a conversation with a client, a conversation with a manager, the feedback they received. So, if again, moving forward, how do we lose the stigma of these types of conversations to move the ball forward so that way people are feeling more empowered and they're not feeling as scared when something is wrong and that they can approach a manager or they can talk to a colleague and say, hey, I am struggling. Yeah, my uncle died who I was really close to. I need 2 days off. okay, like, and it's different for every organization, right? Maybe that person has already maxed out all of their time off. How do we work with them rather than just saying, no, you have no more time, it's over, get back to work? That's a reasonable response, but is it the best way to communicate to that person, or is there a, middle point to where we can make them feel like they're supported?
That's I remember those conversations. That's exactly how it used to go. I mean,
Right.
I would ask for a few days off, and they would say no. Or now that I asked, for more than 2 weeks, I asked for a couple of days off here and there. Now I'm on a performance plan, because
Right.
I'm struggling.
Right.
But if I had these resources, and if I had those conversations with my manager, and I felt comfortable, to talk to them about these things, I mean, they would know what is affecting me, and
Sure.
maybe have better conversations about
Yeah.
what's going on in my life, and how we all have lives outside of work, right? So
Yep.
what can we do to kind of, like you said, bridge that gap between work and life balance, obviously. But like you said, we take it home, but they expect us not to bring it into work. It's impossible. I mean, it's
Totally is.
impossible to not bring what happened before to work. I've been through 2 divorces. That was pretty intense, and for me not to bring it to work was almost impossible. I mean,
Yeah.
I became a parent. I have 2 daughters, and when I had my first divorce, it was the hardest thing, driving away and not seeing my children, every day,
Yeah.
not seeing their little faces waking up and, hey, Dad. Um,
Right.
and that used to break my heart. And right before I'd go into work, I'd, down a Red Bull, and I'd just forget about everything, and just try and put a happy face on and go throughout the day. And I did also drink a lot, and I smoked a lot of cigars, and that's kind of self-medication. But if I had
Right.
resources at the time, I probably would have done it differently.
And it's not to say that, like, like, it's on the jaw, it's on the company to make sure everybody's okay all the time. But even if your manager had just come up and been like, "Hey, MJ, man, I know you're struggling. Like, let me know how I can help you today." Even if there was nothing he could do, just asking that and being aware probably would have made a significant difference in your productivity the rest of the day. And maybe not completely, but just knowing that he or she might have been aware, and that they were okay with you maybe being a little stressed out, right? And just knowing that some stuff was going on at home. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't just not show up and not do your job, but again, it's how do we find that balance? Because if they're meeting you there by saying, "Hey, we're noticing, we're here to help," then it's also on you or the employee to also then show up back for that company as well.
I think if they have those resources and they have that conversation, like you said, just somebody asking if you're okay. I don't know if you've ever felt
Yeah,
that, but when something really bad happens to you and someone asks if you're okay, it kind of opens everything up. And
100%.
I'll cry sometimes if someone asks me if I'm okay. I'll cry because I'll let it out. But once I let it out, I appreciate that they asked me. I'll come back to my desk, with hopefully dry eyes, but I
Yeah,
will work harder because my manager does care, and
sure thing.
they're trying to help me in anything that I'm trying to do, and they're not
Right,
looking at me like I'm a weakling or non-promotable of some
right.
sort. So I mean, that's huge. That's really
Yeah,
important to me, and I'm sure it's really important to any claims adjuster you see out there.
yeah.
I can tell you right off the bat, they're all stressed. All stressed, especially right now. And I've always thought, claims can be fun. I say that all the time. Claims can be fun. I just wrote a book about it too, about insurance. I'm really passionate about insurance because it's
Yeah.
done well for me, and I love insurance claims. I have a very high threshold for stress now, but that because we have these things, growing up in claims. And so if we can get ahead of that, I can see this whole insurance adjusting job transforming, and not being the the stigma that, that it is right now.
Yeah.
When people say, "Oh, you're an insurance adjuster, man, you must be stressed." Well, yeah, we are, but there's ways that we can deal with that now,
Right.
and ways that we can talk about it. And like you said, I mean, we spend a lot of time with our coworkers.
Sure
That's a
do.
lot of time hiding your feelings. That's a lot of time holding everything inside to people that are almost like your family now, because you spend, 8 to 10 hours with them every single day, 5 days a week. Why can't you feel comfortable talking about that? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that we got this far, but and just so you kind of so anybody who's listening kind of I'll take you, what we've created right now is what we've been talking about, but moving forward, probably and arguably the coolest part of the whole platform is we're actually building, well, we've written and built the framework. It's going to be called the mental health first responder training, and it will actually be a training program. So we hired a guy out of New York. He has written it. He's a certified mental health expert. He's written a couple books on it, but it will be an actionable. It's a 6 hour training module course, kind of that individuals, managers can go through. So our goal is agencies, companies, carriers can slowly start to adopt this, and it will walk through, all of the mental health issues that people may or may not have. It will walk through how to respond to people. So then we're actually starting to change those conversations. We're giving people not just the tool via the platform and the app, but then now also, MJ, if you're hiring somebody now, you can give them this, and they also now know that this company is thinking about my mental health, right? They're prioritizing it. Oh, this company, hey, they look at this. Hey, they've been through this, they understand it, right? So, but then also what we're really hoping for is as we continue to grow, insurance is arguably the largest distribution network in the entire world. This training, the first, mental health first responder training, is going to be completely free. There is nothing like it on the market. Anything else that's out there, you have to pay for. And in some cases, it's not even covered by insurance. So people have to pay out of pocket to go get trained. We hope that as we get more and more successful, people give this to a construction company, a trucking company. Like the distribution is endless. You could put your daughters through this. I'm not saying you need to. I'm just saying
yeah.
the goal is this is a free training that will allow people to understand mental health in the workplace and how to engage and interact in those conversations. We just happen to be in the insurance world, right? So that's where we're starting. But if you look across any company or sorry, any industry, mental health is, page 342, section B, part 8, and if we can offer it as a free resource, we believe that this can go across the country and be utilized by family members, other companies, other industries, because it's not just a struggle in insurance and claims, or you and I just happen to be privy to that because we're in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge barrier too that you're breaking. I mean, no cost. For
Zero.
me to get mental help at one time, I have to call so many doctors and so many places to see if they even accept my insurance, to see
Yeah,
how much it's gonna be. It's pretty expensive, if
right.
you need some help, every so often. So this is great. I mean, something that's free that you can learn from, you can have as a resource. And like
Yep,
you said, it's not claim specific. It could be anybody and any
yep,
company that has high stress, or even any company that just has normal stress, and it could be high stress for somebody, low stress for some other people. But uh,
totally.
either way, it does fit in the claims. I'm glad we talked about it because it does fit in the claims organization really well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's, again, it's just if we can change the conversation in the workplace, the ultimate effect is that the conversations at home are a little bit better, right? Because if the conversation at the workplace changes, I go home and I'm maybe just a little bit, I'm in a little bit of a better mood, right? Or I don't feel as stressed. I'm not taking that home, not all the time, but it's a circle, right? And every day we wake up, we go to work, we do all these things. So if we can change a little bit of that and make the day-to-day engagements or experiences a little bit better within the companies and with the colleagues, you then also maybe show up better as a parent, you show up better as a spouse. All of those things are so important. And we're not therapists, right? Like I'm no expert. I just happen to have my own experience. And along with Justin, we just saw a need that said, this is important. How do we raise our hands and make a difference? And so that's what we're doing, man.
I love it. I mean, I'm really glad I had you today to talk about it because I think, in the claim sector, which, my show talks about,
Yeah.
uh, it's something that needs to be talked about. And it's something that I'm really excited about. And I'm sure that, other people are going to be excited about it too. If they want to go online, where do they go again?
Project55.org, or you can just find us on, LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, we're on all the socials as well, but I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. So for kind of the anybody in the claims side of things who's listening, or anybody in general, you can find me on LinkedIn, where we talk about it, but also you can join the actual platform through project55.org.
And I joined. It has a cool little checklist. I went through all the
Yeah.
checklists and got my profile, taken care of. And now I think I interacted with you
Yep.
well. So I see it. I mean, I know that it's going to work. You're
Yeah, and then
you're
as we get, as we get more momentum also, right? Like there will be more, we're going to have like, monthly things for people who are struggling with alcohol. We're going to have monthly meetings for people who, who are bipolar, right? Because like I'm not an expert in that. Well, why don't we go get people who are, right? And so there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff coming down the pipe, but it's cool, man. It's unique, and we hope it can make a difference in so many people's lives. And is it perfect? No, but neither is what we're currently working with. And so we're just trying to raise our hands and start to make a difference. So um, I just, dude, I love it, man. Thank you for caring, and thank you for making a difference and having me on today, man. This has been great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I could see the passion coming out from
Yeah.
inside of the screen. It's great. It's intoxicating. So, I'm all in too. So what's one thing, to kind of close it out? What's your final thought? What's one thing you want, our viewers to hear or think about, or maybe your little tidbit of advice for the claims people?
I recently posted a poll on for anybody who is on LinkedIn and follows Curtis, the loss ratio guy. He had a video the other day about Joe Rogan calling all of insurance, effing gross. And I posted a poll about it. And, it's a really interesting kind of division in our country because I think, and I'm certainly guilty of it. Other than being in the industry before this, I had no idea, right? You kind of lump it all together. And it's really disheartening. So now that I'm in the industry, I've been, it's not as gross. And, I certainly hope that through Project 55, we can change, not only the mental health stigma, but also I hope to be more of a voice in just insurance in general, in that it really isn't as gross. I think there are gross parts of it because, there are a lot of people who are just making so much money, and some of the little guys get left out. But with that, how do we begin? And this is where I'm tying it back to you, because we need people who are also out there early on, right? And that's where you wrote your book, and, allowing people to understand the insurance at a much younger age and educating people, because it's really not that gross. There's a lot of wonderful people and there's a lot of wonderful qualities about the industry. It struggles just like anything else, right? You could go to the oil and gas industry and it would be just as painful. Construction industry, government. And I'm just so glad that you're also championing it to maybe start, educating some of the younger generations about what insurance can do and what it is.
I mean, the worst part of it is, I think, I think a lot that contributes to that stigma is, especially with auto claims, the one time that they have to use their insurance is like the worst day of their lives. And
100%.
and they call in, and we're trying to educate them about their policy, which is a whole, other sidebar conversation. No one
Right.
wants to learn about that stuff at that time. So, like you said, with my book, I'm kind of helping the children learn, and
Yeah.
parents who read the books, and hopefully start them on a good trajectory to understand at least a little bit, about insurance.
Yeah.
And when they have a loss, they won't think it's gross or
Right.
the worst thing ever, because you're right. I mean, there is a big stigma about, insurance claims, you know, insurance in general. And I can tell you I'm on the inside, and it's not gross. It's actually
Yeah.
a really nice place to be. And I would have never met you and your project. So that,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just that it's, are there bad apples? Of course, right? Are there things that need to be changed? Absolutely. But I don't think we're alone in the world of the industry that maybe needs some changes, but um, it's a wonderful industry full of wonderful people. You know, just be kind out there. I guess I'll leave it at that because we don't know what people are going through on the day to day. And so if we can change one person's, outlook or life today, then I've made the world a little bit of a better place.
that's awesome. We'll end it there.
I
um,
love it, man. Well,
I,
thanks for having me on.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, like I said, I can see the passion coming out of your screen, and on behalf of InsurTechs.io as well, thank you very much for what you're doing. And I'm following. So I'll see you
Thank you,
around.
man. All right. Very good.